Again, from the book Wonder Drug. We have been duped into believing meanness will make us happy. By falling into that trap, we are denying our innate we-ness. The survival of the fittest bullies might believe that they should look out only for number one. But if we follow our true nature of survival of the kindest and look out for numbers 2 through 7 billion, we will not only survive, we'll thrive. As our UU Church faces a new chapter as a lay-led congregation, it is important that we see ourselves not as an isolated island, but rather as a key piece of a larger community that reacts and interacts with our broader community. So, as past president of this church and one of the senior leaders, I want to share with you some of my experiences in another lay-led congregation. Before I moved to Corpus Christi, I was a member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Laramie for 12 years. The congregation in Laramie was much smaller than this group. As you can imagine, since it was located in the sparsely populated state of Wyoming. People in Wyoming joke that it's one city with very long streets. However, we owned a little church building down a gravel road in the middle of a prairie. Imagine with me the little church on the prairie. The little church was a triangular pyramid, really. 3 sides, triangle at the base, okay? Each side straight up. Helped with the snow coming down. And it was in an open space on the prairie, down a gravel dirt road about a mile outside of town. So if you imagine that now with me, the whole interior of it would about fit in this room. But it was a triangle, so behind me was a little nook, a little triangular nook with pillows and a nice place to sit and chat and read. Over there in that corner, that was only 150 miles south of us, so it was not that far away. We didn't see much of our new minister after that, as he spent most of his time counseling the Columbine families. Shortly after that, our new minister was offered a job by the UUA, and he sailed off into the sunset. We just went through a difficult, emotional year, and we were once again without a minister. As it happened, I was the president of the board for the Little Laramie congregation that next year. I spent a lot of time encouraging congregants to talk, to heal, and to plan for the future. I learned some lessons from the little congregation in the pyramid that I would like to share. The congregation is not isolated from the community we live in, as my story illustrated. We react and we interact with the broader community. The way we choose to interact, that's what's important, especially when bad things happen. In a small lay-led community, what each member does is very important. Members that I thought did nothing but attend services turned out to be doing critical tasks. I just didn't know. I never arrived for an event in the pyramid without heat. That meant that someone got up early on Sunday morning and started the wood stove to warm the building before the children arrived for their religious education classes. Since there was only one large meeting area, the children had class first. Then the chairs were put out and the service was held in the same space. All of those things required volunteers. Teamwork is also critical. We had an unusually snowy winter that year. On Christmas Eve, there was a little snow on the ground, and the snow was falling as we gathered to sing songs in celebration on Christmas Eve. When we started to leave, the situation had changed drastically. There was a couple of feet of snow on the ground, as if it was something rehearsed. Everyone quickly filed out. Smaller cars were dug out and windshields were cleared. The vehicles left in a slow parade, with the smaller cars following larger four-wheel drive vehicles, and the largest trucks leaving last. This ensured that everyone proceeded safely the mile down the unpaved, very snowy gravel road. We spent the year in reflection. The group expressed the desire to move to a larger building in town, closer to the University of Wyoming, where students would be able to attend. A church building became available, and as I departed Laramie to move to Corpus Christi, the congregation was in the process of selling the little pyramid on the prairie and of purchasing this larger building. So what does all that mean for our church in Corpus Christi? Here are my personal reflections. We also have had a couple of rough years. We've lost over a dozen friends and members to death, and a few others, including the minister, have moved away. Many of these individuals were key members of our congregation, and it is natural that we might feel some sense of mourning for those no longer here. But, like the little congregation in Laramie, we need to dust ourselves off and look to the future. Here are some key things that I see. We have some wonderful volunteers. You might have seen Bill, who comes in every week and makes the coffee, checks that the chairs are in order, welcomes visitors, helps with the weekly collection, as well as other important things. Glenn repainted and fixed up the rooms while the building wasn't used. Kirk works tirelessly to ensure that the outside grounds remain usable. The new worship team has been bringing us new and interesting programs on Sundays. Our musicians are bringing us a range of music, from jazz to classic rock and punk, not to mention Jim's piano music. If you don't like the music, come back next week. It'll be different. Our AV team is critical to supporting our services and live streaming. The new Leadership Development Committee is organizing to keep things going. Michelle and Kristen are leading us in important fundraisers. I am sure there are many I didn't mention. Volunteering is our lifeblood. If you see someone doing something positive, please take a minute to thank them. And if you see something that needs to be done, please pitch in. We need everyone. We are fortunate to have this building and beautiful grounds. It was our former members and some of our remaining members that made this possible. It was the many financial contributions, as well as the blood, sweat, and work that led us to this building on this site. It is our responsibility to continue to be good stewards of this important resource. It is critical that we continue to provide the financial resources to support the continuation of our church. We have some important upcoming fundraisers and the stewardship canvas that will all need our support. It is up to each one of us to consider what this church means to us, as if we are coming to a fork in the road. We have the opportunity to reflect on where we want to go and what we want to do in the future. Who do we want to be? The Board of Trustees wants to hear from each of you on that. Lastly, I want to bring your attention back to our mission that Kathy read earlier. Growing in spirit and faith to inspire acts of radical inclusion, justice, and loving kindness. We have a very active group working with the unsheltered individuals that live in our local community. That continued work is a key way that we can reflect our mission and values to the outside community. I believe that loving kindness begins here among us. So what then is loving kindness? Loving kindness can be defined as tenderness and consideration towards others. Another definition suggests that loving kindness is tender and benevolent affection. Like the members of the Laramie Church that worked together that Christmas Eve, we are all on the same team. It is when we are able to treat each other, every individual that enters this building, and our church with loving kindness, that we will be able to thrive and reflect our mission and values here and out to the surrounding community. The last two readings that I read today came from the book, The Wonder Drug. If you find this science-based book interesting, please contact me after the service and we can start a reading group to dig into it deeper. I think you'll find it really interesting, as did I. So here is one last reading from that book. Researchers at Harvard measured social capital in 142 countries and concluded that high levels of community trust and support, helping friends and family, volunteering, being a generally trusting person, were associated with greater life satisfaction and positive affect among 95% of the planet's population. Independent of age, gender, income, religion, marital status, and education, subjects who self-reported high levels of social trust, having someone to count on and being someone others could count on, were happier and less stressed than those with trust issues. It didn't matter if the subjects came from first, second, or third world countries. Feeling supported by a community and trusting that if you are in need, others will come to your aid makes people happier.